Welcome to the Inner Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Paul Ryan, and today I want to chat to you about 5 big choices that shape your destiny. Now, I'm probably several decades older than you, so maybe think of this as a message from your future self, sharing some really important insights on the big decisions that are ahead of you and helping you get them just right. This is not a definitive list. People have different priorities and so may consider different decisions more important than the other. But in my experience, these are 5 biggies. They are major life decisions and choices, and they're set to have a major impact on your life. The problem is, some people don't realize they're actually choices. And when we're young, we may not realize just how important these choices are, just how much they will impact us in the future, and just how far-reaching those choices will be. So, not necessarily in any order, but these are all of high importance at different times in our lives. So let's kick off number 1. This is one you're probably not expecting. So number 1 is how you respond to life's challenges. So I'm wondering, did you actually ever think that that was a choice? Or did you feel like you'd been locked into habitual behaviors long before you had the self-awareness to even consider the possibility that you could choose or at least influence how you handled major life challenges? You see, from early on in your life, you're going to face challenges. That's just life. You'll face setbacks, and some of these will have a major impact and some smaller. And how you respond to these challenges will have a really big impact on how they work out for you, and how they work out for you will have a big impact on the trajectory of your life. This is an important decision. You may not realize it because before this you may not have actually considered that it was a choice. In fact, you're better off recognizing this and training your brain how you want it to respond when you face small challenges, small things you get upset over. Because when you train your brain how to respond to challenges well and positively in small situations, well, you're building the muscle for how you handle the big challenges. And those big challenges are going to have an enormous impact on your life. Because how we do the smallest of things is usually how we do all things. Now, I've spoken before about the challenges I faced in 2009 in the global financial crisis. Business investments all collapsing around me. But not everyone responded to the challenges in the same way, and not everyone had positive outcomes. I did a mini-pod recently talking about this mantra I'd created during very stressful times, this list I had titled 10 Reasons I Love My Job. And I spoke about how I would come home in the evening during this global financial crisis, soak in a warm bath, and read through this list of the reasons I love my job. When at the time, my job, my business, my investments were causing me hell. They were causing me so much trouble. But I decided that I was going to survive this and I was going to thrive. I had no choice. I had a family. And coming out the other side of this was just what I was going to do. The only question is how I was going to do it and how long it was going to take me. So I had to create a psychology and an approach and a strategy that was going to get me out of these problems. I was facing a major life challenge, and I knew how I responded to this challenge was going to have a major impact on my future. And I was absolutely right. So I began creating this evening ritual where I would soak in the bath and repeat this mantra, go through these 10 reasons I love my job. Because I wanted to shift my mindset and my perspective. I wanted to switch on the optimism. I wanted to turn on the problem-solving part of my brain so I could creatively come up with solutions to my problems, which is exactly what I did. Now, it took me time, but eventually I came out of all those challenges. In fact, I turned all those challenges into positives, and I laid the foundations of a really good life that I'm grateful to live today. But I was also on the verge of losing everything. And if I hadn't responded to it properly, that's exactly what would have happened. But I had taken a very constructive approach. I had this list of 10 reasons I loved my job to get my mindset right. But I was also very conscious of getting exercise, of getting support, of journaling, of learning, of reading, of studying business, of studying investments, of continually absorbing information that was going to help me create a much better life. And slowly, I became stronger physically. I became stronger mentally. I became stronger emotionally. I became stronger financially. I had a better understanding of business. I had a better understanding of investments. And I began to bring this learning, this creativity, this problem solving to making a better business, to solving the problems I had, and ultimately creating a better life. That was the approach I took when faced with a major challenge. Unfortunately, I also had at the same time a very clear and close example of how you could approach it differently. You see, I had a friend at the time that was in a very, very similar situation. He had a business that was equally struggling. Now, what I discovered after a while is how he was handling these problems every evening is he was opening a bottle of whiskey. Now, in one of our early podcasts, I told the story in great detail. But he was going home every evening, opening a bottle of whiskey. And I suppose initially he felt great doing that. It was numbing the pain, numbing the discomfort. But slowly he was getting weaker and weaker and less capable of dealing with the problems. I rebuilt my business. I rebuilt my life. And he lost his business. He lost his home. You see, we were both in a very, very difficult situation. We both faced a challenge. And I chose to respond to it one way. It didn't make it easier in that time. It was just how I chose to respond to it. And because I responded to it in a positive way, I consistently got stronger and better. And because he responded it by numbing the pain, instead of facing it, confronting it, and digging inside to try and resolve the situation, he looked to numb the pain in a bottle of whiskey. And slowly he drowned in that bottle of whiskey until he lost his business, he lost his home, and he lost his life. So what I want you to realize is how you respond to challenges is a choice, but it's something you need to train yourself when you're young. It's something you need to train yourself when you have small problems. Don't leave it until you have a major problem, until you train your mind to respond positively and creatively to life's challenges. Choice number 2, how you make and how you manage money. We all have to make money. Money is very important to some of us and it's less important to others. I get that. We're all wired differently and that's cool. I'm kind of guessing if you've tuned into this podcast, money is a high priority to you because if you consider yourself with some degree of interest in the entrepreneurial way of life, then you have an interest in making money, I guess. But either way, you can't live without it. So you might as well set yourself up to at least have enough money to live and to live well. Why not create a whole lot more? But look, that's for you to decide. So hands up. I have always wanted to be wealthy. When I had nothing, and I mean nothing, I dreamed of living in a beautiful home, driving a luxury car, and having the freedom that I thought wealth would bring. And I do not apologize for that because that's my nature. That's how I'm wired. And thankfully, I've been able to achieve all of those goals. And this is something I've endeavored to pass on to my children. You see, how you choose to live your life is your affair. But surely it's easier if you have money than if you're struggling for it. It gives you more choices. It gives you more free time if you don't have to spend all your time working for money. As a young person, you are in an incredibly powerful position to have a high impact on your future wealth. You get to place a high value on how you grow your income, how you spend, so you're spending less than you earn, the savings plan, and starting investing and saving at a young age. All of these habits will serve you well. I'm in my late 50s, and so I've gotten to see the other side. So I can see friends, acquaintances, colleagues who prioritize money throughout their lives. And I also get to see those who did not prioritize money when they were young. And what I see is that as you get older, it becomes much more stressful not to have money. And probably that's because you can see you're running out of road to fix it. And when you're young, you think, oh, I've lots of time to fix this, to get my financial life in order. And maybe because you think that, you miss the opportunity realizing that when I'm young, if I start saving and investing now, and I do that over decades, the reward will be enormous. But I know so many people who missed that opportunity because they didn't think it was necessary. And they thought, I'll sort it out at some stage in the future. Most of those people never got it sorted because they developed bad money habits. And those bad money habits have led them to a life now where they're in a poor financial situation. And when you're pushing 60 or older, seeing yourself running out of money, seeing yourself not being able to retire is not much fun. On the other side, when you're in your late 50s, 60s and you're retiring to travel the world and do the things you love to do, that is a whole lot of fun. So if you're in your 20s, 30s or even 40s, you still have time to fix that. But the younger you start, the bigger opportunity for impact you will have. Money has always been and remains very high on my personal values. And that's where my experience is. So that's what I'm going to talk to. When I was young, I had a realization, a very impactful realization. I realized that for me, making money by the hour just wasn't going to work. I mean, I wanted to be wealthy, and there are only so many hours I can work. So right off, that limits my earning potential. I needed to make money based on the profits I could produce, whether it took me 1 hour to produce them or 1 year, 10 years. Because in this way, my earning potential was only limited by my own ability to grow my business. And realizing this, I was always on the lookout for the best way to make money based on how I could generate profits, not based on the hours I worked. The route I chose was business and investment, and that's what interested me. And now my earning power has almost no correlation to hours work. It relates to the performance of my business, which our management team operate, and the performance of my investments. Working has pretty much nothing to do with my ability to earn money. Now, this took me decades to create, but it was a decision I made when I was young. It was a seed that was planted when I was young, and now I get to enjoy the benefits, the return on investment of a really good money decision. You may also choose to do work you love that doesn't pay great, or you may choose to do work that you don't really like and you can tolerate, but it pays well. The decision to do something you don't like will have big consequences down the road. So be very, very careful committing to a career that you don't enjoy just because there's money in it. Because let me tell you, that burns you out. In fact, it can eat you alive. Trust me, I've tried this and I do not recommend it. Best finding work that you can at least enjoy, that you have some talent for and that you're good at, and you can get some value out of the hours you will spend doing it. You do not want to be hating going into your job every Monday morning. Now, it took me a long time to get to financial freedom. So if you feel like you're decades behind, that's just the journey. What's important is that you get yourself on the right road. And don't let how long it might take you to get to your destination prevent you from getting on the right road. Because if you have a very specific place you want to get to, then you really need to be in the right path. And that's the choice you're making. So take time to think about it. Do your choices meet your present needs only, or are they setting you up well for the future? The choice you make now is key. Number 3, and this is a sensitive one. Maybe I'm going to get some kickback on this. I don't know. It will be interesting. But number 3 is who you choose as a life partner or who you marry. Of course, you may choose not to marry at all and not to have a life partner. That's fine. These are all personal decisions, but it will have a big impact on your life either way. If you're lucky enough to choose a life partner that you love and you can live happily with, and you can work together to build a great life, the quality of your life will really be enhanced by this. Now compare this to making a rash choice or choosing to marry someone that you're not quite sure about but you're going to settle for, or someone you can't entirely trust, or who may be a wonderful person but just has different values and wants different things out of life. Making the wrong decision can lead to so much trouble in your life, and we're talking a major lifelong impact. I am no relationship expert. I do have the experience of being married for 35 years, so I have some experience here. But the research tells us the biggest things couples argue and fight about are sex and money. And both of these come down to clear and honest communication. So I think the important thing in any intimate relation is that you can sit down and have a totally honest conversation about what you both want from life and what you want from a long-term relationship or marriage. An honest conversation is where you're going to sit down and lay it openly who you are and what you want from your life. I think if couples will share this early on in a relationship, they're going to learn two really, really important pieces of information. First, you're going to discover if you're actually on the same page, if you're compatible with your life partner, if you want the same things from a relationship. And sure, you may be really attracted to someone, but that's different to being suited to a long-term commitment together. And this is what you need to be very sure of before you get a wedding ring on your finger or enter into a legally binding contract that could cost both of you dearly and be very damaging in the future. And the second thing you learn is probably the most important. You get to discover if you as a couple have the ability, the maturity and the willingness to sit down in full, open and honest conversation together and resolve differences and create a life path that you both want to travel together. Now, if you can do this, then I think you have a really good shot of working together through the challenges that you will inevitably face as a couple. And if you can't work these things out, I'm sorry to say, you're probably doomed. We all know relationships who've gotten this right, and we know relationships who have gotten this wrong. And we've all witnessed the life consequences of both, and they are hugely different. I'm going to finish this off by stating the obvious. You can do everything right, and you can still go wrong. And you'll meet people, they'll say, I was completely in love, I thought we were perfect, I thought we were a great match, and it didn't work out. But that's life. Sometimes it happens. And in every decision you make in life, just because you're making the best decision you can, the wisest decision you can, does not guarantee you an outcome. But that doesn't mean that you don't do everything to ensure that you're making the right choices. And after that, it's in the hand of the gods. Number 4 is your tribe, or the people you spend time with. I'm sure you've heard it said that we become the average of the 5 people we spend most time with. And that does make a lot of sense when you think about it. If our friends are fit, healthy and successful, then let's face it, we're going to be drawn towards a healthier lifestyle and getting our shit together. On the other hand, if we eat crap and we don't exercise, spending time with these friends is going to make us feel uncomfortable. They will challenge us, and we will either up our game or find new friends that operate at a level that doesn't challenge us, that we're more comfortable around. I often speak about neuroplasticity, which is simply how our brains change and reprogram based on our repeated actions. But now new research is talking about a phenomenon called neural synchronization, which tells us that people within a specific group tend to become similar over time, both in their outward appearance and how their brains actually function. Our brains synchronize with those around us. This is according to Matthew Lieberman, and he's a renowned social scientist. And he says our brains are wired for socializing, have evolved to thrive on connection with others, which greatly impacts our well-being and our personal development. Think of it, our ancestors lived or died by the support or lack of it from their tribe. Without social connection, without your tribe, you didn't survive. And it seems that social interactions play a crucial role in shaping our brain's neural synchronization, because we're social beings, and as such we have a need for socialization, and our brains consider this a primary necessity, just as important as the basic needs as eating, sleeping. So the regions of our brain that process the pain of isolation overlap with those responsible for physical pain. And this highlights the significance and impact of social connections in our life. Your brain is actually synchronizing with the people you spend time with. So you need to be very mindful of surrounding yourself with positive and supportive people that will help you in your life. If your tribe is filled with negative and destructive people, it's going to have a very real and destructive effect on your brain. I mean, this is obvious to us. This is why we never want our kids to keep bad company, because we instinctively know that the negative influence can be contagious, and we want our children and ourselves to be a positive environment. I don't think any of us needed a scientist to tell us this, but it's really good that they have, because now you know for sure that you are becoming the people you spend most of your time with. Your brain is rewiring to synchronize with those people. So choose your friends carefully and build a tribe that's supportive. Number 5, and this is one you may not have been expecting also. Number 5 is choosing to live fully or choosing to survive. In my experience, most people don't give enough thought to the life they want to create. And if they do give it any thought, they don't then sit down and take time to plan that life and to figure out how they might actually go about creating it. They don't create a plan and they don't create a strategy. Sure, you had dreams when you were young, but then you grew up and you got a job. You needed the money. You had to pay rent or a mortgage and you were raising a family. And soon enough, you're just trying to get by. And you've completely forgotten about designing any sort of a life you want. You're just struggling to live the life that has been landed in front of you. In doing this, you may not realize that you have made a huge life choice. But because everyone does it, you don't actually think of it as being a major life choice. But you have decided to choose the path of survival. And by the way, I'm not denying that surviving is a privilege. It's a privilege that those of us in first world countries, we just take for granted. We take for granted that we have a roof over our head, that we live in a peaceful society, that we have food on our table, and we have basic freedoms. And of course, not everyone has these. They're privileges. And we should appreciate them, but maybe sometimes we feel guilty for wanting more than so many others have. But when you're in a struggle of your day-to-day life, it can be difficult to truly imagine, well, what's the life you actually want to live? But here's the fact. Almost everyone who ever created a life they wanted started out with just an idea, a vision, a dream, a picture when they had nothing. Nothing. So don't confuse where you are now with where you want to be. Don't let the present circumstance hold you back from choosing to create a better life. And this is where your tribe really comes in and is so important. Because if you surround yourself with people who are planning to elevate their lives and their circumstances and to build something using where they are as a starting block and not using it as an excuse or a roadblock, this is so much different than surrounding yourself with people who will believe and support your bullshit about being stuck where you are. Guess what? You will end up stuck where you are. So choose your tribe carefully. Here it is simple. Planning, creating and designing the life you want is a choice you make, followed by actions you take. It's not going to just magically happen by itself. If you just let life happen to you, then you may end up living a life that someone else planned for you or that you stumbled across. How is that working out for you? Whether or not you are aware of this, you are making a choice. The choice to be a creator of the life you'd love to live or to be a victim. And this is one of the most important decisions you will ever make. So as I said from the outset, this is not a definitive list, but it's a list that I really think are so important. So quick recap on the 5 big life choices. Number 1, how you're going to respond to life challenges. Number 2, how you make and manage money. Number 3, who you choose as your life partner. Number 4, your tribe, the people you spend time with. And number 5, choosing to live life fully or just choosing to survive. So thanks for listening today. If you want to get some real impact from this episode, go take a pen and paper and set aside some thinking time devoted to answering and exploring these questions and see how you are ranking and what changes or new choices you might need to make. As always, if you love the show, please like, comment, subscribe, share on social media, tell all your friends about it. It really helps us grow. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take care.